He did not invent railroads. He did not invent steamships. He did not invent commerce itself. He controlled movement, and by controlling how people, goods, and information moved across a growing nation, he gained power over markets, cities, and even time. Long before modern corporations understood logistics, platforms, or infrastructure dominance, Cornelius Vanderbilt grasped a brutal truth. Whoever owns the routes decides who wins. This is not a story about innovation. It is a story about control. Early life, poverty, water, and observation. Cornelius Vanderbilt was born on May 27, 1794, on Staten Island, New York. His parents were poor farmers of Dutch descent, living modestly on land that offered little upward mobility. There was no inheritance waiting for him, no education pipeline, no influential family name. Formal schooling ended almost immediately. By age 11, Vanderbilt left school for good, but what he lacked in education, he replaced with observation. Growing up near the water meant watching ferries, cargo boats, and passenger vessels operate daily. Vanderbilt learned by paying attention. He noticed how long trips took, how weather affected schedules, and how certain routes were consistently busy while others were ignored. Most importantly, he learned that movement was never free. Every trip had a cost. Every delay created friction. Every inefficiency created opportunity. And whoever reduced friction gained leverage. This idea would define his entire life. The first business, owning the route, not the profit. In 1810, at just 16 years old, Vanderbilt borrowed $100 from his mother, a risky loan for a struggling family. With it, he purchased a small sailing vessel and began ferrying passengers and goods between Staten Island and Manhattan. This was not a glamorous business. It was crowded, competitive, and low margin. Vanderbilt's strategy shocked his rivals. He charged less than everyone else. He worked longer hours. He accepted profits so small they barely seemed worth the effort. Competitors accused him of being reckless. Some believed he would fail. But Vanderbilt wasn't trying to maximize profit per trip. He was trying to dominate the route. He understood that once people depended on him for movement, pricing power would follow. First came volume, then dependency, then control. Movement was not a service. It was leverage. Steamships, speed, scale, and pressure. The 1820s and 1830s brought a transportation revolution. Steamships began replacing sailboats, eliminating dependence on wind and drastically increasing speed and reliability. Many operators hesitated. Steamships were expensive and risky. Vanderbilt embraced them. He entered the steamship business aggressively, applying the same strategy he had perfected earlier: lower prices, higher volume, relentless pressure. He ran ships constantly, reinvested profits immediately, and expanded faster than rivals could respond. Steam introduced something new into transportation: schedules. Schedules changed everything. When people could rely on predictable departure and arrival times, behavior shifted. Businesses organized around timetables. Supply chains tightened. Dependence increased. Vanderbilt understood that predictability was power. Competitors collapsed under sustained price pressure. Others were forced to sell routes or merge. One by one, independent operators disappeared. This wasn't competition. It was consolidation by exhaustion. Routes as strategy, not geography. By the 1850s, Vanderbilt recognized the limits of water transportation. Rivers froze, ports congested. Steamships still relied on geography. Railroads removed those constraints. Steel tracks replaced waterways. Timetables replaced tides. Railroads were not just faster, they were systems. And systems, once integrated, created economic gravity. Vanderbilt didn't see railroads as vehicles. He saw them as arteries. Where tracks ran, cities grew. Where schedules aligned, commerce flourished. Where access existed, value followed. He began acquiring railroads with ruthless clarity, focusing not on prestige but on position. Control the junctions, control the hubs, control the choke points. Railroads didn't just move goods, they decided where goods could move. Infrastructure as invisible authority. What made Vanderbilt uniquely powerful was his obsession with integration. He didn't want scattered lines. He wanted unified networks. He standardized operations, eliminated redundancies, and removed inefficiencies that slowed flow. Where others saw chaos, Vanderbilt imposed order. And order created dependence. Once industries relied on Vanderbilt's rail networks, negotiation disappeared. Prices, timing, and access were no longer market discussions. They were operational facts. Movement became reliable, predictable, controlled. Infrastructure does not argue. It dictates. Power without philosophy. Unlike many industrialists of his era, Vanderbilt had no public ideology. He did not preach progress. He did not justify his actions morally. He did not frame his work as national service. He believed in leverage. To Vanderbilt, philosophy was irrelevant. Whoever controlled the route controlled the outcome. There was nothing to debate. This absence of ideology made him uniquely difficult to challenge. There were no values to appeal to, no vision to reinterpret, only ownership. And ownership doesn't negotiate. The human cost of efficiency. Vanderbilt's methods were unforgiving. Workers were replaceable. Competitors were expendable. Public sympathy was irrelevant. He tolerated inefficiency nowhere and opposition nowhere. Strikes were crushed. Rivals were destroyed economically rather than debated. But the transformation he drove was undeniable. America moved faster. Goods flowed more reliably. Time itself became standardized as schedules synchronized regions. Markets expanded. Cities grew along his lines. Progress came, but on Vanderbilt's terms. Death and the architecture he left behind. Cornelius Vanderbilt died on January 4, 1877, at the age of 82. His fortune exceeded $100 million, placing him among the wealthiest individuals in history. Yet his true legacy was not wealth, it was structure. The rail networks, the scheduling systems, the centralized logic of infrastructure control. Even as ownership changed hands and technologies evolved, the architecture he built endured. America continued to move along paths Vanderbilt had shaped decades earlier. Why Vanderbilt still matters today. Vanderbilt's story is not really about steamships or railroads at all. Those were only the visible tools of his era. At its core, his legacy is about control through structure, the quiet power that comes from owning the paths everyone else must use. Vanderbilt understood that influence does not always come from innovation or persuasion, but from positioning yourself at the choke points of movement, access, and flow. That same logic repeats in every era, only the materials change. Today, it appears in digital platforms that control how information moves and which voices are amplified or buried. It shows up in logistics networks that determine how goods cross borders, how fast they arrive, and at what cost. It exists in energy grids that shape entire economies, deciding which regions thrive and which remain constrained. It is embedded in data pipelines that govern visibility, access, and opportunity in the modern world. Those who own the routes rarely need to argue, advertise, or convince. The system does the persuading for them. This is why Vanderbilt remains relevant. He exposed a timeless pattern of power, one that transcends technology, industries, and centuries, and continues to define who truly controls the future. Cornelius Vanderbilt never asked how movement should serve society. He asked who would control it. Once he answered that question, the rest followed naturally. Markets adapted, cities aligned. Time synchronized itself around his infrastructure. The system moved, the nation followed, and the world adjusted to the paths he owned. That is how movement became power, and how one man learned to control the invisible forces that shape history. If you found this video informative, make sure to subscribe to this channel for more content. Thank you.